you. Sorry about that. If you have questions, be sure to post them in the comments. If you have, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to know that. Post some emojis if you're kind of feeling what we're feeling. So like I mentioned before, we are going to get started with our sun planter, and that's kind of what we're looking at down here. So bright colors, vivid colors, lots of bold color, and we will be using our large mache pots. And what's so nice about these mache pots is that you can plant directly in these, and then they can be dropped into any of your containers at home. So if you have very large heavy containers that you don't want to plant directly into, this is the perfect thing. They come in a ton of different sizes. They come in some different shapes as well, so you can find something that fits. Or if you want to plant directly in your container, feel free to do that as well. Put on my gardening gloves here, which is always a great thing to do. And so for our sun planter, we're going to do something a little bit different. Now, of course, you can always keep everything low, but for this, decided to do something that will give a little bit of height and a little bit of drama to your pot. So we're actually going to start with this beautiful Maui Braid to give some nice height. So this I'm going to plant directly in the base of the pot. So I am starting my container without soil, where typically you would want to add your soil ahead of time to give yourself some space. And excuse me while I start filling up. So once you have your large plant in the base of your container, then you can start adding your potting soil to fill up, because we will actually be planting directly on top of the Maui Braid plant, which is a really nice tropical plant. Loves the bright light. When we're talking about sun planters, that means that all of these plants are going to need 6 hours of light or more a day to be happy and thrive in the area that they're in. So making sure that all of these things will get at least 6 hours of bright direct sunlight a day to keep them happy and growing. Okay, so now that I have my soil in and everything packed on top of the Maui Braid, we can start adding in all of our other plants around it. So for this one, because we have the nice height and fullness in the middle, we're going to actually plant all the way around, so you can see from every side and every angle. So some of these gorgeous plants that we'll be putting in here will be potato vine. So you're going to see the potato vine in both the sun planter and the shade planter, and it's one of those plants that can do pretty well in both situations, because they're kind of medium when it comes to light. So breaking up your roots a little bit and putting them in. I have kind of prearranged my plants here on the table, and what can be nice if you're just directly planting at home is before you take everything out of the containers, you might want to just kind of place and arrange in the pot to see how everything looks and where it fits. That way that can save you a little bit of time and hassle if you want to move something around as you're going. So again, kind of breaking up the roots a little bit with each one as I go. So then we're going to add in this gorgeous dahlia, which is going to give you such bright color, such great blooms, and a lot of nice greenery with it too. And then just start layering in our other pieces. Got this beautiful jester fern, which again kind of loves the real tropical heat, so something again that will do well. And as far as what you're adding in the center, so I've chosen this Maui Braid here, but you could also do the same thing with maybe a hibiscus plant, which would be gorgeous in there, something a little bit more green. So if you like the idea of doing a fern or another kind of tropical tropical plant that would be gorgeous in there to give you a little bit of height. Got some of this fun corkscrew going in here, which I love the texture of something like this. So this is really going to give you some fun texture. Give a little bit of trail, just give an interesting look to it. Some of these beautiful Gerbera daisies. So these are going to come in a bunch of bright colors as well. And so again, we'll give that really kind of bright tropical vibe to something. Geraniums, another really nice hardy sun plant. So these will be very happy having all of the bright lights, and again, will give you some gorgeous color. Love that vibrant fuchsia pink. We've also got the Celosia, which we're putting in here. Some really gorgeous, interesting colors, and again, has really interesting texture. And those are some of the things that I love adding to my planters, are maybe things that you wouldn't typically think of as far as texture. That way it just has a lot of visual interest to them. And then making sure that we're adding things that will trail as well. So again, you have a little bit more interest in the planter, things that are spilling over the front of the plant and the planter, give you some color. And popping in another one of these gorgeous geraniums to keep that kind of vibrant fuchsia following through. And then if you're going all around, kind of just spinning as you're going, making sure that you have the plants in the spots that you want them. Again, putting in some of these petunias for this beautiful kind of purple color. Filling in around the back. Again, I'm going to pop in another one of these kind of bicolor Gerbera daisies. If you can't tell, I love orange, so that always seems to make an appearance in something that I'm doing. And this gorgeous Lantana, this is kind of one of my favorite things that will give you a beautiful color. When they start blooming, you're going to get a ton of blooms on them. And again, they'll kind of trail a little bit, they'll grow up a little bit. So one of those really pretty fillers that will give you some really nice texture as well. So again, kind of filling in. And once you get everything in there and you're like your placement of everything, then what we're going to do is just go through and fill in the soil so everything is tight and compact. Just making sure that you leave at least an inch or two at the top for watering so your soil is not overflowing as you go. When you're finished with your planter, please give it a very, very, very good drink. They're going to be pretty thirsty. And then fertilizing is great. Something like Mighty Bloom is always great to add in just to kind of help everything take off, and then it'll help your plants grow a little bit faster. You'll get more blooms out of them too. So making sure to fertilize along the way is always a great way to get more of the blooms out of it. So this is our sun planter, and again, all of these plants will need 6 hours or more of sunlight per day. We do have a list on our website, a recipe for this planter, for the shade planter that we're about to talk about as well. And then we do have some recipes for some other planters too. So if you're worried about picking out your own flowers or worried about what things go together, we do have something called Plant by Number, and it will give you several different recipes for sun and for shade that you can kind of go through and order the product right off of there, so it kind of takes the guesswork out for you. So moving on to our shade plant, and then again you're going to see the example right down here in front. So for this planter, McKenna's just going to turn it a little bit for you so you can see the front. For this planter, we did something a little bit different to have kind of a wow statement to the piece. So again, instead of doing just your typical plants, we wanted to add a little bit of height and a little bit of drama to it. So for this particular planter, after adding in all of our plants, we did add in a shepherd's hook and a lantern to kind of give it that little bit of wow to it. But for the one that I'm going to make with you right now, I'm actually going to add something a little bit different to it as well. So we add a little bit more soil here. And when we're talking about shade plants, this means that they only need about 2 hours or so of sun a day compared to the sun plants that need 6 or more. So for this to have kind of a wow statement, we're actually going to plant a wrought iron basket right in the center. And I'm sorry, it might be a little bit hard to see this, but we'll make sure you get a good view of it. And so making sure that this is going straight to the bottom of the pot, and I'm going to fill in with a little bit more soil to make sure that it's nice and sturdy in here. But the point of doing something like this is to add height to the planter itself. So once we're finished and have everything planted, we will be able to put a hanging plant right in the center that's going to trail down and really give some drama and kind of add height to your planter and just make it a little bit more unique than the typical lower planter. So again, shade planters, 2 hours of sun is all that they're going to require, 2 hours to a little bit more. And for something fun like this, we're actually going to add a couple plants that you wouldn't typically maybe see in pots. So looking at this, the Sansevieria, this is typically something you would see as an indoor green plant, and we use them a lot here for that as well, but it is tropical, so it'll love being outside. It's very low maintenance, kind of like, you know, a succulent would be kind of in that family. So it is going to be pretty low maintenance, doesn't need a lot of sun, but add some really nice height and just an interesting texture to the planter itself. So I'm going to start with that. And what's going to be different about this planter versus the first one is I'm going to do this. That's something that's going to be more of a 3-sided style. So what that means is maybe this is something you would set in a corner, or you would set maybe against the house or somewhere where people aren't going to be walking around all sides of the planter. And so that way we're kind of working forward. So we'll have our highest points in the back and we'll kind of slide down as we go, or stacked planters is what they would be called as well, because we're kind of stacking lower to higher as we go. And then one of the other really fun things that we're going to do in this planter is add a perennial. So instead of just adding annuals to everything, you can certainly add perennials to any of your planters, give it a little bit of a different look. So I'm actually going to put a hosta in this planter too. So we're going to get some gorgeous green, we're going to get some great height, and this is really going to spread a lot as it grows too. So along with our Sansevieria, we're going to have this gorgeous hosta, which I'm a big hosta fan to begin with. I love some of the greens, some of the yellows. They just have such really nice colors. And then we can start adding some of our color. So again, making sure that our wrought iron pole is nice and secure in here as we're going, and then pulling in some of the other gorgeous shade things. So in patience, and get some beautiful color and get some nice height with these ones, adding those in there. They're happy without all of the sun. And add some of this gorgeous hydrangea. So again, adding something a little bit different in. So adding in this beautiful hydrangea. This is for sure some gorgeous color, some nice fullness. Popping this right in there too, and you can see when that gets in there, try not to break these lights as I go as well. When that gets in there, it's really going to fill up the container and give some beautiful color. Putting in, again, we'll kind of shift this as I'm going so I can add some of these things in. Coleus, these are one of my favorites. I love to have Coleus in my pots. This is something where they're really going to take off and grow, get nice and full when they're happy and planted and in a shaded area. Again, have such beautiful, beautiful colors in there. So we'll see some of that gorgeous green. Got our cyclamen, again in kind of that beautiful fuchsia color. So adding in a little bit more color as well. Popping those in. See how it really starts to fill up. Then we'll pop in some of the begonias, and of course, because it's me, I have to get some orange in there somewhere. I just think it really kind of pops the rest of the colors that are going on in there. So I'm kind of gonna cluster these two together so we get a little bit more tight, full bloom when it starts to bloom. And then just for a little bit of trail, I'm going to add in this potato vine, which I did use in the sun planter as well. It's one of those things that can do well in both areas, just so we get a little bit of something trailing over. Once again, try not to break the light. And popping this in there so we can have a little bit of trail. How gorgeous and full this looks. And then of course, so we are sure this is where we want everything, we'll go in and just fill in the soil a little bit more, make sure everything is nice and tight in there. Again, leaving a couple of inches for watering. And then what is going to be my favorite part of this? Yeah, that would be great. So the lovely Karen Bachman is going to be my assistant right now and take this up front for us so we can actually get a really nice view of how it's going to look. And then, depending on what we want to do, we'll pop a hanging basket up there. And of course, we'll take off the hangers, but you can do something beautiful like that. So you're looking at kind of another layer of plant. So when it starts to grow a little bit more, it's going to trail right over, and it's going to give you some beautiful color, give you a little bit of lift, and it really kind of takes your planter from beautiful, but it just kicks it up a step to really wow. And definitely the neighbors will notice something like this. So love adding that little bit of extra drama to it. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Please let us know if you have questions on anything. Again, we will have these recipes for you on our website or the link through Facebook, so you can copy any of these things, or again, we'll have a link to those recipes of the plant by numbers that I mentioned before as well. Any of the product you can shop online at bachmans.com. We are still offering curbside pickup, delivery, or if you're comfortable, you can shop here in the store, and we do have some really nice safety measures put in place. We do encourage everyone to wear a mask when they're shopping, and of course social distance and staying 6 feet away from everybody else when they're shopping. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and thanks for growing with us.